The year was 2003, and the internet was drowning in its own success. Millions of websites existed, but finding them again after closing your browser was like searching for a specific grain of sand on an endless beach. Internet Explorer's bookmarks were clunky local files that disappeared if your computer crashed. Yahoo's directory was manually curated and hopelessly outdated. Google was still just a search engine, not the omnipresent digital overlord it would become. Into this chaos stepped a 31-year-old programmer named Joshua Schachter, working out of his Manhattan apartment on a side project that would fundamentally change how humans organize and share information online. He called it Delicious, and it would become the forgotten pioneer that taught the entire internet how to tag, bookmark, and discover content in ways we still use today. Schachter wasn't trying to build the next big thing when he launched del.ico.us in September 2003. He was scratching his own itch, frustrated by the limitations of traditional bookmarking. His revolutionary insight was deceptively simple. Instead of organizing bookmarks in rigid folder hierarchies, users could tag them with descriptive keywords, and instead of keeping those bookmarks private, they could share them with the world. The domain name del.ico.us was a clever hack around the fact that delicious.com was already taken, using the two-letter top-level domain for the United States to create a readable URL. This wasn't just wordplay, it was indicative of Schachter's approach to everything, finding elegant solutions to seemingly intractable problems. The interface was Spartan by design, just blue links on white backgrounds, but it was lightning fast and intuitive. Users could save any web page with a simple bookmarklet, add tags separated by spaces, and instantly see what others had bookmarked from the same site. Within months, a community of early adopters was using Delicious not just to organize their own browsing, but to discover new content through the collective intelligence of the crowd. The magic of Delicious lay in its emergent properties, behaviors, and patterns that arose naturally from its simple rules. When thousands of users independently tagged the same article as technology, or politics, or funny, a folksonomy emerged, a grassroots taxonomy that reflected how real people actually thought about and categorized information. This was radically different from the top-down approaches of traditional media and search engines. Popular items bubbled to the surface not through algorithmic manipulation or editorial curation, but through genuine human interest. The public timeline showed recently bookmarked items in real time, creating a serendipitous discovery engine that felt almost magical in its ability to surface interesting content. Power users developed sophisticated tagging strategies, using combinations like to read for articles they wanted to consume later, or reference for resources they might need again. The social aspect was subtle but powerful. You could follow other users whose tastes aligned with yours, creating personalized discovery networks long before Twitter or Facebook existed. By 2004, Delicious was processing millions of bookmarks and had become an essential tool for journalists, researchers, and internet power users worldwide. Yahoo noticed. In December 2005, during the height of the Web 2.0 acquisition frenzy, the internet giant purchased Delicious for a reported $15 to $30 million, bringing Schachter and his small team into the Yahoo fold. At first, the acquisition seemed like a perfect match. Yahoo was desperately trying to reinvent itself as a social web company, having missed the search boat to Google. Delicious represented exactly the kind of user-generated content and social features that were supposed to define the next generation of web services. Yahoo promised to integrate Delicious deeply into its ecosystem while maintaining the service's independence and character. The acquisition was part of a broader Yahoo strategy that included purchasing Flickr and several other Web 2.0 startups. For a brief moment, it seemed like Yahoo might actually understand what made these services special. The Delicious team was given resources and freedom to improve the service, and usage continued to grow throughout 2006 and 2007. But Yahoo's corporate DNA was fundamentally incompatible with the lean, focused approach that made Delicious work. The company that had built its empire on portal-style directory browsing and display advertising couldn't figure out how to monetize a service built around simple link sharing. Internal politics and competing priorities meant that Delicious never received the attention or integration it needed to reach its full potential. While competitors like Dig were raising tens of millions in venture capital and grabbing headlines with their flashy interfaces and gaming-prone algorithms, Delicious remained largely unchanged, its sparse interface looking increasingly dated as the web embraced rich media and social features. Yahoo's attempts to modernize the service often backfired, adding unnecessary complexity to what had been elegant simplicity. The 2008 redesign was particularly controversial, introducing a more Yahoo-like aesthetic that many users felt betrayed the service's minimalist roots. Meanwhile, new social platforms were emerging that incorporated delicious-style features as just one component of much larger systems. Facebook's sharing features, Twitter's hashtags, and Google's PageRank algorithm all owed intellectual debts to Schachter's innovations, but they were being implemented by companies with clearer visions and deeper pockets. The beginning of the end came in December 2010, when a leaked Yahoo internal document revealed that Delicious was on a list of services to be sunset, corporate euphemism for shutdown. The news sparked immediate outrage from the service's passionate user base and the broader tech community, who recognized that Yahoo was preparing to kill one of the internet's most important innovations. The hashtag #SaveDelicious trended on Twitter, and dozens of articles appeared lamenting the impending death of the pioneering service. Faced with this backlash, Yahoo quickly backpedaled, announcing that they would sell Delicious rather than shut it down, but the damage was done. Users began fleeing to alternatives, and the uncertainty around the service's future made it impossible to attract new users or retain existing ones. For over a year, Delicious existed in limbo while Yahoo shopped it around to potential buyers. The service continued to function, but it felt like a ghost town compared to its vibrant heyday. Joshua Schachter, who had left Yahoo in 2008, watched from the sidelines as his creation slowly withered. In April 2011, Yahoo finally found a buyer, Avos Systems, a startup founded by YouTube co-founders Chad Hurley and Steve Chen. The sale price was never disclosed, but it was widely reported to be a fraction of what Yahoo had paid 6 years earlier. Avos promised to rebuild Delicious from the ground up, creating a more modern and social bookmarking experience. They migrated the service to new servers, redesigned the interface, and added features like following users and creating bookmark stacks. But in trying to modernize Delicious, Avos fundamentally misunderstood what made it special. The new version felt like every other social network, with emphasis on profiles and social features rather than the pure utility of bookmark management and discovery. Many of the power user features that had made Delicious indispensable to its core audience were removed or broken in the transition. The migration process was buggy and chaotic, with users losing bookmarks and tags that they had carefully curated over years. The clean, fast interface that had been Delicious's hallmark was replaced with a slower, more complex design that prioritized form over function. Within months, it became clear that Avos had failed to capture the essence of what made Delicious work. Science Inc., a startup incubator, acquired Delicious from Avos in May 2014, marking the service's third ownership change in less than a decade. Under new management, there were renewed attempts to revitalize the platform and return it to its roots as a simple, powerful bookmarking tool. The interface was simplified again, some classic features were restored, and there were promises of mobile apps and API improvements. For a brief moment, it seemed like Delicious might find new life, but the damage from years of neglect and mismanagement was too severe. The user base had largely moved on to other services. The network effects that had made Delicious special were gone, and the broader internet had evolved beyond the need for a dedicated bookmarking service. Browser bookmarks had improved dramatically. Read It Later services like Pocket and Instapaper handled article saving more elegantly, and social platforms like Twitter and Reddit had become the primary engines for content discovery. Pinterest had taken the visual bookmarking concept and made it mainstream, while Dig had risen and fallen as a social news platform. The specific niche that Delicious had created and dominated no longer existed in the same form. By 2016, Delicious was a shadow of its former self, maintained by a skeleton crew and used by a tiny fraction of its peak audience. The service that had once processed millions of bookmarks per day was lucky to see thousands. New features were rare, bugs went unfixed for months, and the community that had once made the platform vibrant had long since dispersed to other corners of the internet. In June 2017, Science Inc. finally pulled the plug, announcing that Delicious would shut down permanently. Unlike the dramatic Save Delicious campaign of 2010, this final death was met with resigned acceptance. The few remaining users quietly exported their bookmarks and moved on, marking the end of a 14-year experiment in collaborative information organization. The shutdown notice was simple and understated, much like the service itself had been in its early days. Delicious has been a real labor of love for our small team, but unfortunately we need to make room for other projects. No mention of the revolutionary impact it had on the web, no acknowledgement of the features it had pioneered that were now standard across the internet. The tragedy of Delicious isn't just that it died, but that it died without ever fulfilling its potential. In the right hands, with consistent investment and a clear vision, it could have evolved into something magnificent. A universal layer for organizing and discovering the internet's information that grew more valuable as more people used it. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about the importance of product-market fit, the dangers of corporate acquisition, and the fleeting nature of internet innovation. Every major tech platform today uses concepts that Delicious pioneered. Hashtag-style tagging, social bookmarking, collaborative filtering, and crowdsourced content curation. Twitter's hashtags, Instagram's tagging system, Pinterest's boards, Reddit's subreddit organization, and even Google's PageRank algorithm all trace their intellectual lineage back to Joshua Schachter's simple idea of letting people tag and share bookmarks. The DNA of Delicious lives on in dozens of services and features we use every day, but few people remember or acknowledge the pioneering service that made it all possible. In an industry that loves to celebrate disruption and innovation, Delicious stands as a reminder that being first isn't enough. You also need to survive long enough for the world to catch up to your vision. Joshua Schachter created something genuinely revolutionary, but the companies that owned it never understood what they had, and by the time the rest of the internet was ready for social bookmarking, the original pioneer had been forgotten, a victim of corporate mismanagement and the relentless pace of technological change.